I can hear James in the background, Heather.
Okay, Ross, I have a question.
Sure.
Can you unmute everybody right now?
I can try.
Just for fun, just to try it.
Yeah.
Just to see how it sounds.
The YES program, Youth Educational Services. So what I want to tell you guys.
Working on it.
As we really get this ball rolling for the project and the work that you need to do. One, I want you obviously following.
I'm almost done. Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, y'all.
Yay.
So first, it is Ross's birthday. So I sent a couple messages today and said at the beginning of the call, we would sing happy birthday to Ross.
Oh my gosh.
I did try to get Ross a cake and it didn't get delivered.
Oh no. Oh no.
I called him earlier. I'm like, I tried to get you a cake. It didn't get delivered. So if everybody wants to join in, we can sing happy birthday to MDD Ross.
Yay.
Then we'll get started with our
Yay.
call. So, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday
to
you.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, dear Ross. Happy birthday to you.
Ta ta ta.
Thank you, everybody. That will be a happy birthday that I will never forget. It was the best happy birthday ever, but it was also the worst happy birthday song. So, thank you.
Hey, we said we were good at leading people and recruiting and talking about membership. We didn't say we were good singers.
We're not the voice. We're not the voice JCs.
We would get no chairs turned on us.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate the great crowd that we have on tonight. We have a really exciting topic that we're going to discuss, which is extremely relevant all the time, but I think it's even more relevant today. So we have some recruiting rock stars on our panel tonight. We have immediate past president Tricia, who is going to talk to us about some prospecting and recruiting. We also have leadership development director Heather on as well tonight, along with President Justin, of course. So as we get started, this is a panel discussion tonight. We are trying out a new platform, as I mentioned earlier. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. We will answer any questions that you have. We'll go over some tips and tricks. And then if you want to give any tips and tricks yourself, we can go ahead and promote you to being a panelist and you can share your story as well. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started with past President Tricia, if you want to introduce yourself and just talk about kind of your JC story when you begin, and then Heather, if you'll do the same, and then we'll get started.
Absolutely.
So my name is Tricia Beanie. My local chapter is in Highland, Illinois. I joined a long time ago in 2001. I was working at the bank and they told me that I needed to join a local organization. So I looked around and it was all a bunch of older people. And so I just decided on the JCs because obviously that was where the young people were, and I jumped right in. My favorite position was my first year in was state director. So I got to travel around and just do visits and everything like that, and like go out and do visitations and get people to travel with me. So it was a lot of fun. And then in 2003, I was president and doubled up my chapter. We grew. I was one of the outstanding presidents in Illinois. Then worked with the Schweitzer Fest we run that a couple years. I was on the region board. And then in 2015, I was Illinois president. I did win the Frost, which is the outstanding president in the United States, grew the organization in Illinois. And then president of JCI USA. I was membership VP in 2017, and then I was president in 2019. So that's kind of my story, where I came from and what I've done.
Awesome. Heather, would you like to share?
Sure. So I was a JC kid. My mom and I were in Illinois, and my family, and we moved down here to South Carolina, and the north was a little too cold for my mom, so she stayed down here and moved to a new small town and connected with the chamber, who connected her with the local JC chapter. And so growing up, I was in one of the largest chapters in the state of South Carolina. And, they had their own hut, did all kinds of things, had a really strong junior JC program. And I just kind of stayed connected with them. Even once my mom aged out, I still babysat for a lot of the JCs. So I was still around. I was able to go to national conventions as the babysitter for some local JCs. Served the organization in different capacities, even as a J-teen. But the day that I turned 21, one of the members sponsored me, and I joined the Newberry JCs in 2003. And then have worked my way along the state and the national level, been state president in 2009, and also in 2015. I served again as the South Carolina state president, and I served as national vice president last year for JCI USA, and currently serving as leadership development director this year, and also am a candidate for national president for 2021. So I know that makes Justin happy as a replacement. Whether I'm elected or not, and he has at least one replacement. So I look forward to serving our organization until the day I age out. So I still have a few years. Got lots of time.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. President Justin, did you want to share your story too?
So I'm the president of JCI USA this year. I've joined in 2009. We established a chapter in Billings, Montana. I was chapter president in 11, state president in 13, national vice president in 15, and then I've been most roles on the JCI USA national team since this point. I am more of the creative brainstorm person. We just had a great call with the fellows class of talking about burnout and issues going on right now, where we feel like our members aren't coming to the table because they have other priorities going on. And I actually said, honestly, if pandemic wasn't happening right now, this would still be the same scenario, because we have a lot of priorities in our life that JC's is the last thing on the table. And so, this year I'm really pushing that our why as an organization is empowerment. And it starts with empowering yourself to self-reflect on what you want out of life, and then utilize the JC's opportunities to achieve those goals. And so I believe that when we are strategizing to recruit members and to share the JC's movement, it has to be surrounded by this conversation of finding out what is an individual's hopes and dreams, what do they want to achieve, and how can the JC's help support them to achieving those.
That's a great point. And I think one thing to reiterate too is in our membership, recruiting and even finding prospective members is finding that why. And that why, we all come together for one reason and we find it once we're a member. Well, how do we kind of portray that why when we're trying to get those members into the organization? What are some ways that you all use in your recruitment stories and your techniques to find that why or explain it?
So,
you want to say your story?
Oh
yeah.
I can.
Tell us your story, Ross.
Totally forgot.
Yeah, Ross.
Get into the question. Don't forget that question I just asked. My name is Ross Ratliff. I'm the 2020 Membership Development Director. I joined the LaPorte JCs in 2014. I wanted to get involved in my community to help with our 4th of July parade festivities that we do every year. We have the largest parade in the state of Indiana. Little did I know when I joined as a member of that chapter that I would be finding benefits that I didn't even realize existed until I got involved. So It's way more than a community service organization. It is a networking organization, and it's a leadership development organization. There were so many opportunities that I discovered throughout growing in the organization, from the state level, serving as state president, all the way up to the national level, even to today. And when I served as national vice president last year, I'm a totally different person than I was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I'm not afraid to jump up in front of a crowd and speak with 250 people in front of me. I'm not afraid to jump on a webinar on social media where everybody can see you talking, and hearing 25, 30, 40 of you singing me a happy birthday isn't embarrassing either. So that's even pretty cool. So there's so many different things that you can learn in the organization. I always say that you can choose your own adventure, and I think that's true among many different facets of the organization.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Choose your own adventure. I like that.
Yeah,
I think that we've chosen a good adventure so far, guys, don't you?
we're in pretty good company. I know I've met some pretty awesome people over the 6 years as a JC, so I think I've chosen a pretty good one.
Yes, definitely. So
Yes.
your why, back to the why.
Yep.
Didn't forget.
This is why we have to recruit and retain members, because he's going to be in a JC meeting one day. He tells me all the time. Okay, good.
Right.
Landon.
The organization does need to continue on because of these young people that haven't had all the opportunities they can get.
I totally agree.
Yes. So I had a few topics that I wanted to talk about, is about like membership and recruiting and everything like that. And I know like we're in a pandemic right now, but that shouldn't stop us from holding our meetings yet. Even if you can't hold them in person, you need to be having your members get together at least once a month. If it's via Zoom, or if you can do it in person and do your social distancing or whatever your restrictions are in every state. Obviously it's different everywhere, different in every area. Like we're different than what they are, in the middle of Illinois and everything like that. So
I heard
one big thing.
Past President Rob Doty made a good point on a meeting we were on this past weekend, that now is a time to look at it that more of your members can get involved. Because if you are a large chapter, even a small chapter, and you meet on Tuesday night, but now, football started and soccer started. So you're busy with your kids. So you have to run all around, but you can easily get on a meeting, and listen to what's going on. So it's kind of a good thing. We have to see the good, or the silver lining, I guess I should say, in the whole pandemic. But having the virtual meetings allows people that possibly couldn't join, because it doesn't take as much time, because they're not having to drive back and forth, and they can multitask. So even if you are having meetings in person, that's something to think about too, is streaming them so people that can't make the meetings now can. And that sounds so simple, but I know 3 years ago, I never would have thought about, we probably should have streamed our meeting. So, our 7 members that want to participate could participate.
I think too, being that we've gone to the digital side, and it is one of those things that we typically don't think about, or we never thought about. Like we always thought that we would never do something like this. But I feel like now with the digital aspect and the virtual meetings, being able to connect with other states, being able to connect with other chapters, it's so much more accessible now. So, if there's something going on in Highland, Illinois, for instance, if, somebody from Indiana or Ohio or California, for that matter, if they wanted to jump on and see what's going on with those chapter meetings, it's a learning experience for all of us if we decide to do that. So I think it's a really cool opportunity.
Right. And I know like you just having the meetings with your mayor, your city manager, police chief, fire chief, you guys can still have them, like, or even the elected officials. Like last week I had a meeting with Representative Congressman Shimkus's office, our U.S. Congressman, and we just did it via Zoom. I didn't get to meet with him. I get to meet with one of his people in his office, but we got to talk about, what community needs are and stuff like that. A couple months ago, I was with Carlisle and President Chelsea, and we went and sat down with the mayor, we socially distanced, and everything, and kind of seeing what their community needs are in Carlisle and what they can use and everything like that. And it was a great opportunity because then that gets you in front of the people to tell you that yes, the JCs are there in your community, and it gives you time to. Do you guys like? There's a lot of young people that work for the city and police and fire and everything. Do you guys have people that want to be members, that want to join the organization, that want to help? So that kind of helps there as well when you do have those meetings to get involved and in front of them. So that's the one thing I always like. You can ask what community needs are, but you can always ask about membership as well.
I know that another way to get involved in Past President Tricia, you might be talking about this in a little bit, but you know, we keep on hearing a lot of our member leaders of our states and our chapters say that, you know, their big projects are getting canceled and they don't know how to engage their members. But at this point, you have to think outside of the box. And yeah, maybe that, you know, festival that you thought where you were going to have what got canceled. But, you know, what about a drive? You know, people still are needing masks. You can hand out hand sanitizer. You know, hand out free masks to people. I think, I don't know which chapter it was in Texas. Was it the HANA? Who handed out masks?
International.
Who?
Houston International.
Houston International. I mean, they handed out masks and they got a grant from our foundation to help fund that, by just writing a request to our foundation to fund that project. So there are other projects that we just have to think outside of the box and think of what our people need at this point. I know that a lot of states are still not open all the way, but having exercising in the park, I think Tricia had talked about this in one of our calls before, is having, you know, just some people get together and you can social distance outside pretty well in a park.
Right, you can go for a walk and just kind of keep your distance. And I know, like, well, Rob the other day from Palatine, he was talking like a doing yoga.
Maybe it was him, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. But, and then I do have Dawn Stango, membership VP from Illinois. She wants to share her story of how she saved her chapter. I asked her to join on tonight, and she said she is ready to speak. Ross, if you want to
Awesome.
add her.
Before I add Dawn on, I was going to bring up too, so whenever you have some sort of event like the mask giveaway or whatever it is, even if it's a different event, don't be afraid to provide the branding. So have those signs that it's a JC sanctioned event, those creative elements that President Justin mentioned. So creating those graphics that showcase what you're doing and what is promoted by. So a lot of name recognition goes into it too. And when they see that and they see the excitement that comes into it, it builds that energy too to possibly bring that young leader into the organization.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much to get your name on like a pop-up tent or well, like I know like the New Baden JCs and like the Highland Mar chapter, we have big trailers and we bring them out to events, and on the side it has our name splattered on it, huge. And I mean, it's just good, you know, it's our project when you see the trailer sitting there. So
Sure.
But Dawn, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, so Dawn is from Schaumburg, Illinois, which is a suburb out of Chicago, and you were president in 2017?
I was 2017 and 2018.
All right, so she's going to kind of share her story of a small chapter. So Dawn, tell us what you did.
So thank you very much, Tricia. At the Mid-Institute, or Mid-American Institute, they asked us a question for those of us that were on the membership panel that said, tell what your greatest success story in the JCs is, tell your membership claim to fame. And so my membership claim to fame really is from my year of presidency. In 2017, I was chapter president of the Schaumburg JCs, as Tricia said. I had a conversation with the 2017 state president at the time, Will Hinshaw, and we were talking about my chapter, or the chapter, I like to call it my chapter, and exactly what the future was going to be if we didn't take action and do something. So my chapter has been around for, I think in 2016 we celebrated 65 years. So, I mean, we've been around for a long time, but there's several other organizations in the area where we have different volunteer opportunities and organizations. So he said to me, the chapter won't be around if you don't do something. And so what I did, or my chapter did as a group, or I did as the leader of the group, is I brought back CLCs. The chapter plan was a huge way of putting down in writing and following a plan of what we were going to do, setting our goals very high. And then if we didn't complete our goals, then we just rolled it over the next quarter. It was really important to bring back balanced programming. We had annual projects that we focused on, but we didn't really have programming that took place every month or on a regular basis to bring the crowds out or to bring the members out and engage. And then one of the big things that we did is began turning in PMGs for those people programming in the future. So being a small chapter, how we first started is we didn't, as we say in Illinois, swing for the fences right away. We started building and developing relationships with other local organizations that we were passionate about. So there is some organizations like Feed My Starving Children, which is an international project. There's Packages for Patriots. So we created partnerships with that because then we got our name out within the community. And then we were able to actually make an impact on our community with only our 20 members. And like I said, engagement all year long in every single area of opportunity. One of the things that I had to do as a leader was be brave and go outside my comfort zone. I had to do things that were asked of me that I had never done in my life. And honestly, the JCs have made me a stronger human. They have made me a stronger leader and someone that is more confident in themselves just because of the opportunities I was given. Be a leader that people want to join and follow. Someone said that I was a leader that people wanted to follow, and that really touched me because I've never really thought about being that to someone. I've never thought about being a mentor to someone or having an impact on someone's life like that. So as I wrap up, just want to say that my local chapter presidency is still one of my favorite experiences in my whole entire life. We started our chapter on January 1st, 2017 at 20. We did have some drops throughout the year, but we were able to end our membership on December 31st, 2017 at 32. In that year, yeah, look at you, Justin, look at that face. So that year I was also awarded the Clique, which is the most outstanding local president of Illinois, and later the CULP at the national level. And one thing I want to close with is ask yourself the question, if not who, or not you, who, and if not now, when. And if you can't answer that question with another name, then it's time for you to take action and make an impact in your chapter, organization, and community, because you could be the change that reverses your chapter, and your passion could just ignite other people's passion. So that's my story. Thank you for letting me share it. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, they can always reach out to me at dawn.stengel@illinoisjcs.org. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Dawn.
I have a quick question for you, or actually for anybody on the call. So if we're talking about membership prospecting and we have maybe a new prospective member that comes into the chapter, and I think, Dawn, you mentioned about increasing your membership by the end of the year. So if we have that new member that comes in, let's say to our general membership meeting, what can we do to make sure that they come back to the next meeting and they get engaged in the chapter?
I think one of the things that we did was showed in general, our group, when you have a chapter of 20 and you have a general membership meeting, 5 people show up, right? But it's the 5 people that show passion and they are dedicated and they draw that person in. And I also feel like they ask. They might not be a member. I'm not forcing you to be a member, but hey, can you come volunteer at this, or can you come help out at this? And then you also asked, and I'll hand over the mic. Sorry. You also asked that how you can make a potential member understand our why and then their why. And Pat DeMarco, our president this year, has really been the one to say, ask about what they're passionate about, and then tell them how the JCs can impact their passion. And I think that's super important because my vision might not be your vision or might not be John Smith's vision, but the JCs can help any of us complete their vision.
For sure.
Exactly.
I love turning, because we always talk about our story, and I think sometimes we might scare some of those people.
Yeah, right?
So many stories and so many success stories.
We got some spirit in our britches.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a good theme. Ross, I was going to add, I think we get so concentrated on the what, on what we did in the organization, like that, I created a haunted house, or I got to do my graphic design stuff and meet with other people. If I just focus on my what, like the things that I did in the JCs, they're going to be like, oh, so you're a graphic design club, or you guys are a haunted house crew. Like, we truly have to say like the big picture story of like, oh, well, I was frustrated and it gave me a creative outlet and a leadership opportunity and the ability to make friends. And then you can start like, what are some, hey, Don Stranger, like why do you, like, what gets you ticking in life? Like, what are you passionate about in the community? And then kind of, you have to start that conversation to kind of cue into things that person likes. And then to be able to say, oh, wow, like you give time at the senior home. Like, we have a member that does a project where we do game nights at the senior home. So you probably know them, like, and you like, so you have to cue into things that they're passionate about to be able to relate their experience to where it can go in the JCs.
Right. And the JCs doesn't limit you from anything. You can raise money for anything and everything that you want. Like, I know in my chapter, we like our most recent big, we always focus on like a big project, and we just built the dog park. So that's huge. We've also renovated the square. We have a room at our rec center. So, I mean, it's always, we do big things. We do a lot of small things too, but it's anything like for the community. And then there's smaller things too. I know a chapter that they go, they have a lot of young guys. But on Valentine's Day, they go to the nursing homes and they hand out carnations to everybody at the nursing home. So that's always really nice. I mean, it's just a nice gesture. So, I mean, you can go as big or as little as you want for communities and to get people involved. And it's what they want to do. So, like, my passion may not be the same passion as Heather's passion,
And it has to include that personal touch too. I mean, we all have to have the reason why we're in there is we're motivated by something, right? So, again, finding that talent within that person. We always look for those, attorneys for the legal counsel, and we look for those accountants for the treasurer spots. But we find those talents that we don't always recognize in people. You might have a graphic designer in your chapter that does it as a hobby. They're not doing it professionally. But if you don't get to know that person, or you don't get to know what their talents are, you miss that opportunity. So finding those talents, finding those opportunities, it might be as easy as taking somebody out to ice cream or coffee after a meeting or before a meeting, or even picking up the phone. I know during this time and pandemic, we've discovered that we can talk on the phone and it's not scary, right? I know I've talked to you all more than I think I've ever talked to anybody on the phone this year, but having a conversation on the phone is one of the most genuine ways to get to know someone, and also to just see how they're doing. And that means a lot.
And this is a time to do it more than ever. And, we talk about this all the time. Don't wait till the last minute. I know that I have told tons of people this. I told my MVP team the last year. I've told my state presidents this year. Don't wait till the week before closeout to have that membership call. Call them now. But during the pandemic, we should be calling to check in on our members. And, I'm going to toot Dawn's horn because I know she's not going to toot it. But as a membership vice president of her state right now, I have seen so many posts that she has just sent letters and little stickers or little things to members, just, acknowledging them within the Illinois JCs. And I think that goes a long way because they recognize that she recognizes that they're still around, that, hey, and, as we're writing our membership plans for the remainder of the year or next year, making sure that we include that personal touch, thanking the member that renews their membership, or the new member that comes in. They want to hear from the local president on a personal note, or even, if you have a member that joined and you want one of the state officers to call them, have the state officer call them. If you want a national officer to call them, reach out to President Justin, and I promise you, he will make sure that somebody on his team calls him, if not himself. But just doing those small little gestures really do go a long way to let people know that they're wanted, and we want to keep them around.
Absolutely. Trisha, MVP Miranda had a question back to the discussion you talked about local leaders. How do you get your foot in the door with those community leaders? So how do we get into the mayor's office or the elected official's office? Do we just walk through the door?
No. So you make appointments with them. So with Congressman Shimkus, I actually, I didn't even have to make that appointment. We have a partnership with Nothing But Nets, which is fights for malaria. And last week was World Mosquito Day, and the nets goes for mosquitoes. And the United Nations we partner with, and they made the appointment for me. So they did everything. They asked what time I was available, and we talked about Nothing But Nets for a little bit, but then we talked about the community as well. So that's an easy way in with just having those meetings with them about that. Locally, I just call the city hall and try to schedule a meeting. I know in Highland we have a city manager and we have a mayor, so we sit down with either of them. And then we have one big meeting with like the police chief and fire chief, and just kind of sit down and kind of get a schedule together. But they're always willing to meet with us. We've never had a problem where they're not. In Carlisle with President Chelsea, I had her reach out to the mayor, and we sat down and had a meeting with her. She was more than willing to meet with us. I mean, if you go in with the attitude of we want to be here for you and help you, and even right now during the pandemic, what do you guys need during the pandemic? Does the city need masks? And like that's what we ask. Do you need masks? Do you need food for the food pantry? Like what's the needs? And like in Carlisle, one of the things they're doing more movies in the park because to get people outside and everything like that, and they wanted a big screen. They're renting the big screen. So that was one of the needs, and they had a fundraiser that raised the money for that. So that was really cool, and it gave them something, and they'll be able to use, for a really long time. And doing movies in the park right now is great. I mean, people can sit outside and they can socially distance. So
I think that's one of the coolest opportunities is getting to know your elected officials, and whether it be, the local mayor's office or the city manager, or all the way up to your state representative, your congressperson. We've all had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. for the Nothing But Net Summit, which I think was another cool opportunity for any JC that's interested in that. But being able to go into that congressman's office or that senator's office to advocate for Nothing But Nets, but then once you get that conversation started and you say you're from the JCs, they're immediately interested in what you're doing in the community, what you can do better, and what they can do to help. So being able to make that connection, build those relationships, whether it's in Washington, D.C. or in your backyard, if they're in their local offices in your community, those relationships are the ones that are going to help your chapter. They're also going to create that connection with other young people that when they're looking for something or they're interning in that office, those are the people that are going to be coming to your chapter too, that hopefully that they can push over.
exactly.
I know here in South Carolina, we've been very fortunate because a lot of our elected officials, if we haven't gotten to meet with them, obviously we've met in their offices, and they all are well aware of the JCs because they have had some part in the JCs. Either they have participated in a fundraiser or an event, or they themselves were JCs. So that's always cool to go in there, and makes it a lot easier. So when you're, especially in a small town, for like our state representative, he was actually from my hometown. So that was easy to connect to him. So finding, you can always start on the local chamber level too. I mean, I told you at the beginning, that's actually how my mom got involved. She was brand new, opened a Taco Bell as a district manager and moved to the town. And she walked into the chamber and said, I want to get involved. And that's how the chamber connected her. So having a good relationship with your chamber, I still think has its advantages.
Absolutely. And I think, so that's important too. So let's say we have a small chapter, Heather. How do we build, so we've got, let's say we have 20 members like Dawn had in her chapter to start out with. January 1, we've got 20 members. How are we going to build that membership up? What are some ways that we can build that prospect list or that recruitment list? What are some recommendations that you all have to help build that list, at least of people that you might know to become members?
Talking to businesses, banks. Banking is the way to recruit, is what I am told. You heard past President Tricia talk about that, but you're going to have to step out of your zone. We can only recruit from your circle so many times. So you cannot just have your members keep bringing in their friends. Their circle's going to end. Because I can tell you right now, I ran out of those people when I was local chapter president, because all my friends were members because I had invited them to meetings and they saw this. And well, at that point they were told you have to join, but they stayed members because they found a value in the organization. But the problem is that we recruit within our own circle. So go into the chamber, asking your local officials, go into banks, partnering with some other organizations as well. The BNI, the Business Networking International. I mean, that's a good way that we've kind of connected around here, where we've just asked people. They can only have one person per trade. So they usually know some other people that want to get involved. So that's kind of nice. That they can send people our way. And then finding, now's the time, just by passing out masks, if we're putting our logo on there and just making that a recruitment tool as well, that says, hey, if you want to learn more, put your name down. A lot of times we have big projects, but do we have membership booths out there? Like, do people know who runs this project? And if they do know, because our name is on it, do we offer a table where they can get more information? And it's just simple things like that that we just don't think about because we're so busy planning for the event to go smooth that we forget the minor detail of adding a membership table or booth.
And that's one thing I say at every event, to make sure that you do have a membership booth or something just to get people more information. And I know a lot of times you're using all your members to work because you have a small amount of members the way it is. But that's when you call in. That's what we have state presidents for and a state team. And if the state team can't do it, you call nationals. And everybody's assigned an MVP to every state, and they'll help you or move up. Like Ross is our membership director, Heather's LDD, and then you got President Justin, myself. Like, we're all here to help. So like last year, I got called in to go to Virginia Beach to help them with the membership booth, which their surfing competition, which is going on right now. Good luck to them. But yeah, so I went in there and I helped work the membership booth, and then I went back for the Air Force show to help work that. But I mean, we're more than willing to travel to help you guys all get a membership booth if you have all your members tied up with working the event. So don't ever think that you can't get help, because we will bring help out. And another thing I was going to talk about is when you were saying like banks and stuff. So I'm a mortgage lender, and our age buys houses. Every age is buying houses right now. Everybody's buying houses.
Everybody's buying a house.
Everybody's buying a house. Everybody's refinancing. Buying a house. Anyway, but then you have the realtors. They're looking for clients. So realtors are always really good. And I know Sarah Nelson up in Michigan, she's a realtor, and I don't know, I haven't talked to her about if she has business or not, but I know she's also a member as well. And then insurance agents, they're always looking for business, people buying houses and wanting to, you're buying vehicles and stuff. So that's always a good network. There's realtor associations in every area across the United States that you can always hit up and talk to. And like some of the chambers, they have YP groups, so you could go in and talk to them and maybe collaborate. I know sometimes it's hard to get in if they already have a good YP group, but after the pandemic, I mean, that might be something that they may have not got together, and now's our time to jump in and maybe get some of them. So
as we're looking at those recruiting lists in our circles of friends, is it going to be really easy for us to get all of our friends to join the organization? Or like, how many people are going to join when we get a list of 10 people on that recruitment list? How many people in your practice have you seen join the organization out of those 10?
3.
2 to 3.
2 to 3. So don't get discouraged when that happens. And again, it's all about building those networks. And if every member of the chapter is sharing their 5 or 6 friends, and you've got a chapter of 20 people, that's 5 or 6 is 100 people. So again, don't get discouraged. You're not going to get every single person, but you are going to get, eventually you're going to get some members out of that.
It took me like 2 years to get my friends that said no, that didn't understand what the opportunity was, to eventually do join. So don't give up on the people that say no necessarily. And then I think it's just taking that time to sit down with your members and ask, like, what are some names of people that could join this organization, and write them down. The fact of writing them down is intention, and there's more likely you're going to recruit those people just because you put them on a list. If you don't put them on the list, you're going to lose track of them. You're going to forget about it. And so it's so important to just put in the intention to write down the names. And I always say it too, like, maybe when you're writing down those names, you find out that 50% of the chapter knows John Johnson. And like, so now, like, he should be a member. Obviously he knows 10 of us. Like, that means that you can go talk to these 10 people and say, hey, it looks like this guy needs to be a member because he knows half of us. He needs to be in our network and in our circle. And then the other thing is writing down a prospect list of businesses that employ young people, that you could intentionally have a committee of membership people reach out and talk to the HR department or talk to a manager and say, hey, we have this opportunity. I know that all of your employees are at home and maybe bored and not having things to do, but they have this opportunity to learn development skills. And so how can I connect with them? How can we offer this opportunity to them so that they are feeling value and being able to fill their cup and to get engaged with others during pandemic?
One thing that we did this year, and it was a little bit of a challenge with pandemic, but when we built our sponsorship packets for the year, we included the membership dues of 1 or 2 members in the sponsorship costs. And that was a huge motivator for a lot of the businesses that were willing to sponsor with us. Granted, since our events changed, a lot of that landscape was, it changed the scope of kind of the sponsorship package, but including that membership in there, those businesses always have a community outreach program. Usually they want to be involved in the community, and there's always young people that are looking to get involved. So being able to provide a membership, whether it's covering part of the membership or all of the membership, it's allowing them to get acclimated to the organization without actually having to pay the dues out of their pocket, which might get them more motivated to come join because it's less of a financial burden. So that's a cool tip. We didn't know if it was necessarily going to work, but it actually worked out really well.
That's awesome. And it's also like knowing the companies that, like, I've never paid a membership due. My company has always paid my dues. But they want me to be involved. So, like, they don't want you to pay dues and not get involved. And I know, like, Wells Fargo is a big company, and we have a huge office in St. Louis, but they pay, you get paid hours to volunteer. So that's really good. And I know, like, in Illinois, we have country companies and State Farm, and I do believe they do the same thing. So that's always, like, when you have stuff like big corporations like that, maybe think about, what can we do and how can we help? And, you want your employees to donate time to the community, will you pay for their membership? So.
Kimmy actually brought up a good point too about universities. So she said something we have planned on doing but have been unable to is to put a membership table at a community college in our city to tap into members there. Obviously with COVID that hasn't happened, but they're trying to find an alternative. But I think that's a fantastic idea, and that's the perfect age group. That 18 to 22 in the university group is the perfect JC age to recruit and get acclimated into the organization. So I love that idea.
Hey, MDD Ross, can I just sorry guys.
Yeah.
So there's a college group called Alpha Phi Omega, and it is a college, it's a fraternity, a service fraternity, and it's pretty much what we are, based in college. So if anybody's looking to reach out to people and it's a smooth transition, I would recommend reaching out to their local Alpha Phi Omega chapters to try to see if they could get some face time with those members.
Thank you, Don.
A lot of times you can partner with the universities too if they don't have that fraternity, and a lot of them want to get involved in service organizations, and once they find out what we all have to offer. But you can also in the community colleges, you can sometimes ask just to put up flyers. I don't know where you're from, Kimmy, I apologize, but if you have a community college and they are meeting class, they have like bulletin boards, so you could always put flyers up there, or sometimes you can even ask to put them on cars. I know around here, my sister went to the big University of South Carolina, and she used to talk about always getting flyers on her car, inviting to different events that were happening along the campus, just kind of depending on if your schools are back in session or not.
I think it's just about connecting with the student activities offices and the Dean of Students offices, and then you're able to find out the opportunities that exist. Just thinking about now, it's just my experience and what I see in my community, but you can be outside and you can be at the parks and you can be at trailheads, and lots of people are out doing these things. So maybe, work with the college to see it, can you set up a booth out in the park space of the community outdoor space of the college? Or if you do have outdoor trail park space and you see a high uptake of families or young people going there to get out, maybe choose a day to talk with Parks and Rec and see if it's possible to set up a table to just hand out water to hikers and start that conversation. But the point, the underlying point is to engage and have conversations with new people in your community.
Sure.
And I know, like last year, when I was in Minnesota, we stopped. Justin, were you with me on that one?
Mm-hmm.
We went to that college and we tried to get in and talk. We couldn't, but they were going to follow up and everything with them just to get in and to see what we could do to help and everything. So, just stopping by and talking, and they'll set up a meeting and everything like that. I have worked booths when the students are moving into college. And they have like a day for all of that, that all organizations can come in. I've done that around here at SIU, Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. So that's another thing that we have done. You probably can't do that right now with everything, but.
So we have a question from Melissa, and this goes back to meeting. I think this is more of a prospective member. So how do we encourage someone to join the JCs when we aren't doing anything due to COVID? There's no excuse for them to meet people or attend an event, but obviously some of our programming is a little bit limited. So how would you recommend motivating that person to join the organization?
I think you should create programming. I think you should have meetings outside in parks.
You should have meetings, have your meetings once a month. And the one good thing, you can do Zoom socials. Ross, I'm going to turn it to you for a second to talk about what you guys have done on our JCI USA level, and everybody's invited to, but talk about your games.
Sure. So this goes way back to March when everything was going a little bit crazy, and we were, I think, as an executive committee, we were coming up with suggestions and solutions to figure out what we can do to connect our members during the time when everybody was stuck at home during quarantine. So MVP Miranda and MVP Margot, we all kind of collaborated and were like, hey, we could do a game night. And we had no idea what that would look like. We didn't know what kind of game we were going to play. And then Uno came out of it. So we found some online options like Jackbox games, and they're virtual games that you can play with your phone and just using a Zoom account. And then Uno, we've discovered that can be played with anybody, anywhere, whether you're from the US, from Canada, from Germany, from Barbados, wherever you're from, everybody knows how to play Uno, and you can get Uno cards off of Amazon within a day or two. And Uno cards of any variety for that matter. So we decided to host game nights twice a week. So on Tuesdays and Saturdays, we would come together on Zoom, just like we are now, and we would have a game night. And it was a great way to network with new people. There's people on the game night, and there's actually most of them are on this webinar tonight that we've never met each other in real life. We've met each other on Zoom virtually, and we can't wait to meet in person. But we've created a bond with a group of people over playing Uno. And there's times when we talk about JCs, and there's times when we just talk about what's been going on during the week. And there's sometimes that we just don't talk at all. We play games and we play Uno and we just forget about the outside world. And I think that's, in times like this, that's completely necessary and it's completely acceptable to do. So don't be afraid to host a game night. We've seen states host trivia nights. We've seen states host their own game nights. We've done the happy hours and those types of things. So thinking outside of the box, that's programming. It doesn't matter what it looks like, but you're bringing people together. We've recruited members off of game night that have never been to a JC meeting, period. They've been told about this by their friends. They've seen the networking and the community that we have. It's a safe space for everyone, and they want to be involved with that. So use stuff like that. It's not difficult. I couldn't tell you that, 6 months ago when this all started, that game night would be as successful as it is. But even though we don't schedule it, we still have the same group of people jumping on every Saturday night. Life gets in the way. It's been a little bit hectic. I haven't been able to jump on, but I hear about it because they miss me. So building those networks, building those friendships, and those friendships aren't going to go away when pandemic is over. We're going to find out ways to visit each other, and we're going to be playing Uno at our conventions when we meet in person. I can guarantee you that.
But even with that, like, you can do a community game night and advertise it on social media, and or a community trivia night or anything like that, to get people out and get them active. And you can invite your members and you can invite other people, and just to get them going. And hopefully they do pick up. I mean, and if everybody has fun, they're going to come back. I mean, a lot of people, if they're sitting home by themselves and they're working and they never get out, I mean, it does get depressing. So it's good to see people like this and to at least get to talk to somebody and to talk about how your week has been or anything like that. I think that's great to do.
For me, I can say 100% that living alone during a time when you can't go anywhere, you can't visit people or travel, it was extremely difficult for me to cope with that. I felt like the walls in my house were starting to close in. So being able to, and I'm not a person that's going to reach out. Trisha and Heather and Justin, you all know this. I'm not a person that's going to reach out and say, help me. I'm just going to kind of go into my own shell and not say a whole lot. But the fact that we have these environments where you can socialize and you can get to know people, it's really helped me. It's helped a lot of members. We've heard so many people between Margot and myself that game nights have helped them through this pandemic because they're able to connect with members. And it doesn't have to be on a Tuesday or Saturday when we're having it. There's we have an Uno messenger group on Facebook. We have ways for them to connect with each other, and it's just a daily conversation. It's a check-in, hey, how are you type of thing. So it's a great thing, and it's just super easy to promote.
Right. And you can also do trainings, workouts. Like, I know people that work out together to hold people accountable and to do that. So that's kind of fun too. And we've hosted a lot of trainings. Heather, that's your job.
Right. I think too that it's a way for us to be able to connect with people all over the world. And when I say not just the United States, I mean, in a few months, we're going to be connecting with people through JCI as they host a World Congress virtually. So yes, the times I saw sometimes today when I was talking to President Justin, some of the times are a little bit early, but the experience, I'll tell you, going to World Congress is expensive, and being able to have it virtually and being able to experience it at such an affordable cost is going to be, undescribable, I'm sure. I don't know, obviously, because I haven't attended yet, but I can only imagine what it's going to be like for the people that participate. So remember, that everyone is invited, and you don't even have to be a member. So maybe you have a potential that wants to connect internationally, and this would be a time for them too. So,
and even for that matter, nationally, we're hosting our first virtual national convention, but being able to experience that, a lot of our local members don't always get the opportunity to come to a national convention. We see less than 5% of our membership at those conventions. So being able to jump on and, even for a training or two, if it's something that you want to just check out and dip your feet in the water. That's going to be a great opportunity for our membership to see that happen in person without the travel cost.
And just for like the newer members that maybe don't know, our Royal Congress is when you have members from all around the world that come together for the annual meeting. And they have trainings and meetings and competitions and speak up, right, everything like that comes together. And then we have it on the national level. We do twice a year, and everybody from the United States, any JCI member can come, but it's for everybody's invited. So if you're all JCI members, you guys can all come to our national convention coming up in October. So it's kind of a cool thing. We'll have trainings and we're gonna have competitions and elect a new president. It'll be our annual meeting as well. And yeah, it should be Atoya, our 10 outstanding young Americans. So we'll have all kinds of stuff. But it's a way for everybody to attend cheap. So
I think out of anything, go ahead, Justin. I'm sorry.
I'm not yet. I
Oh.
have things to say, but not yet.
Okay. I was gonna say,
Justin, you have something to say?
Yeah.
out of all of this, I have to say this year has been a very challenging year, but I have to compliment all of our chapters, our states, and even our national organization for being extremely resilient and taking charge on the opportunity. It's very difficult. We know that membership is hard even in non-pandemic situations, but being able to work and find ways to be resourceful and find those opportunities it's really exciting to see. And it rejuvenates me when I see those exciting opportunities like the mask drives and the virtual socials and that type of thing. Being able to put something like that on, without any type of PMG or any type of background, finding those opportunities and seizing that opportunity is just, it's super exciting. And like I said, it recharges me.
Totally agree.
any other questions? Let's see.
I think we've covered most of the questions. Did you, either of you have anything else to cover? I know, Justin, you have a few things to say. We'll let you wrap it up here in just a second.
Let me see if I had anything else in my notes.
I was going to add, I did throw in, we created a recruitment, we updated refreshed a recruitment guide from what we found like from the 80s or sometime. And I just put the link in there. It's going to go out in the member-wide email, and then we'll make sure that Miranda and her team get that posted on social as well, but that'll be available also in our library. And it takes you through scenarios and experiences and scripts of how you can talk to individuals, what you might, the excuses they might give you, and more language you could use to continue that conversation to recruit. So it's kind of a fun document.
That's an awesome document.
My favorite excuse that you should never accept is you don't have time, that they don't have time. And I'll tell you a story. I asked a girl at work. I work with 40 girls. She was of age. And I said, hey, Nicole, you're single. You've been talking about you don't have anything to do. All you do is you go to work, you go home, and you sit on the couch and binge watch series on Netflix. Not dissing anybody that does that. I'm just saying she was complaining that she didn't have anything to do. And I said to her, so why don't you come to a meeting and hang out? And she said, I don't have time. And I told her,
she wanted things.
Don't accept that as an answer. She should just say, I didn't want to join. And so that's my little thing too. Don't ever accept you don't have time. Coming from a very busy person, as well as I know a lot of other people are busy, we make time for things that we want to belong to, or at least we give a chance to something that we want to belong to. So
on that same note, I think another excuse that we hear is, and sometimes it's valid, is not having the finances to be able to afford the membership. But keep in mind that there are ways that you can help sponsor a membership. You can offer solutions to that membership. But just keep that in mind when they're saying that. It's not always the fact that, they don't necessarily want to join. They might not legit be able to afford it, but offer those solutions.
somebody said something, but I didn't see.
One thing with talking about finances and stuff, we have the Senate organization, which is the highest award you can get in JCI. A lot of them sponsor members, so we can always look at having them help sponsor. So they're always willing to do whatever to help their local organizations. So that's another way to go about it. And then another thing I wanted to say is just make sure that your members are getting the value. If they're not getting value, they're not going to renew. So just call them up and ask them, what they want. Not really what they want, but just talk to them and get to know them. So for instance, I know that Heather, she has, she's works in the dentist field, and she really likes dogs. She has always had a dog. She used to have the little wiener dogs, and now she's got, what kind of dog is that one?
A box.
A boxer.
Yeah, a pain. But I know that she's kind of passionate about animals. So that's always something to kind of like, once you get to know people, just kind of see what they're passionate about. And then that'll help. Like, let's say, okay, like for instance, in my chapter, we did a pet parade one time. I mean, and I thought it was great. People are like, when are you bringing the pet parade back? Stuff like that. So it's just finding those like little things that'll get that person to renew, and you can help them run whatever project they want to get their value of their membership. So that's one thing I always try to stress is just get to know
them. I think we discussed earlier, like, how do you help a new member or a potential feel welcomed? And it's really just talking about them. Don't have diarrhea of the mouth and talk all about yourself or even about the organization. Find out what they're passionate about and what drives them. If they're huge animal lovers, then you talk about what your pet parade or your dog park. If you know that they hate animals, let's not talk about animals. Knowing what they like and dislike help a lot. So that first 10 minutes that you're talking to them, definitely finding out, and you can find out a lot about someone in the first 5 to 10 minutes of having a conversation with them.
Right. I mean, they may like sports. They may like play sand volleyball, or they might play softball, or, something like that, that might be their little way in and what they like to do, and know that, okay, like maybe in the summer we should get ourselves a softball team or a volleyball team or something like that, or we should throw bags. I mean, just to get people active, and then they'll show, oh, hey, there's the LaPorte JCs, playing softball, so.
I think the biggest thing is just remembering that we're human too. So we all like to think of ourselves as super JCs, and we forget about that human aspect. But we do all need to eat, sleep, and we do have hobbies outside of the organization. So just remembering that when we're recruiting those members. Yeah, I know.
People ask me all the time, what's my hobby? I'm not going to tell you what my friends say my hobby is, but I'm still working on what my hobby is.
And you got to have fun. I'm going to mention it. Fun, but nobody's going to join if you're not having a good time, and if you're running a project and everybody looks really crabby and it looks like it's work. They're already working their job. Everybody gets stressed out enough at their job. So make sure that you guys do that, and make sure you just, even if it's just a call right now or a WhatsApp call or Zoom or whatever, just for a social, just to get together and talk, and maybe just have a drink over the phone or whatever, just to get together and mingle. So
I was going to say, it all just starts like with a compliment and asking questions, and then let it organically flow from there in that conversation. And I was reminding people today, despite pandemic, that our organization and all other organizations were struggling in the world of busyness and priorities. And so don't let pandemic be the excuse to stop this movement and to stop opportunities. And also don't let other people, when you're trying to share ideas and you're trying to put a spark in your chapter and in your fellow members, don't let their poo-pooing and their nose dissuade you from moving forward, because we can easily, like, if we're trying really hard to step out of our comfort zone and to say yes, and like, okay, I'm gonna suggest this and I'm gonna take action, and then your board says no, it's pandemic, everyone's lost their job, so no, we're not doing anything. Don't let that stop you. Like, go back and put some detail and more thought into your idea, and make it happen, advocate for it, and know that there are members around the world that will listen to your idea and hear you out, even if maybe your chapter isn't in a mindset currently to step up and do the things that we're needing to do right now.
Great points.
And Ross, well, the one I guess we as leader, we need to model the behavior we want to see. So if you're a person locally that has ideas and ambition and energy, and you feel like there's all these, I mean, I think probably 2 people saying no would dissuade me from feeling like I'm going to do it. Again, go ahead, like go back to your president, your chapter president, and someone else and say, I really think this would be a good idea, and I would really like to do this. Can you help support me in getting support from our members in our chapter? We as the board members, as the national leaders, as state leaders, we need to model small steps and baby steps, because there's a lot of people right now that they just don't know how to navigate during pandemic, because this is, again, something that's never happened. It's a shock to our brain. And so the individuals that have been able to process and move forward and are ready to start moving on despite the situation, just help uplift each other to take those opportunities and to do whatever we need to do to make this world a better place every day.
100%. And I think to that point too, with membership recruiting, it's okay for somebody to tell you no, and it's okay for you to have more than one person to make that ask too. So if you, as a membership VP or a membership director, you might not be the correct person to ask that person to join the organization or to pay their membership dues. Having a committee or a group of people supporting you, it's not just the membership person's responsibility to recruit the membership in the organization. So
It's
building that support
everybody's
system and supporting
responsibility.
your chapter is key.
Membership is everybody. And one thing that I'm going back to new members, I was going to say, we have a couple of chapters that they assign somebody to that new member. So be it
A buddy system.
like, yeah. And so let's say Ross just joins and I'm assigned to Ross. So I'm going to text Ross and be like, hey, Ross, we have a meeting tonight. You know, can you get on the Zoom call, or can you come out? And if he says no, okay, well, I'll let you know what happens at the meeting. So just to kind of fill up and be like, okay, this is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe next month I call him, or during the month I call him, just to kind of, you know, make him feel welcome. And then when he does show up at the meeting, if it's an in-person meeting, kind of making sure he's welcome. Because I know, like, the first time I walked into the meeting and there was quite a few people there, I'm like, oh, shit, what's that? I don't think, and good thing I had, like, my boss was the one that recruited me, one of my bosses. And I'm like, he's like, oh, come on in. Like, because I didn't know anybody. And then you're like, what do I do now? Like, I'm here and I don't know anybody, and you kind of freak out. So making sure that they do feel welcome at the door and they do have somebody to talk to. So.
Absolutely. Heather, do you have anything else that you want to add?
I don't think so. You know, I believe that I said I don't think so, but I really do. That might be my hobby talking. I'm just kidding. I think it was membership director for Illinois, Dawn, said people stay because they're connected. And, you know, I am connected to this organization, and I will renew till the day I age out, because I've made friends all across the United States. I tell everybody, you know, my best friends are all over the world. But I was also fortunate enough to meet my spouse in the organization. And our family is a JC family. You know, my son knows that we get on JC meetings now, but, you know, just building those connections and telling your story, and, you know, that's what will help people stay around for a long time.
Yeah, and I think ultimately I say the same thing and people just laugh at me. They're like, how do you have friends all over the world and different time zones and that type of thing? It's just such a great opportunity that a lot of people don't have the ability to be a part of. And I think we're really blessed to have an organization that, again, lets us choose our own adventure and see where we go. And we meet these amazing people along the way that become a close-knit family. So it's a great organization, and we just need to keep sharing that and sharing that energy so that we continue to have that movement as time goes on.
I would say I've had a few people tell me after, like, because I always post where I go and everything, and they're like, if I knew that you could do that much with the JCs, I never would have dropped out years ago. Well, I mean, you can travel literally anywhere, and I mean, there's members all over. So, like, for instance, like I have Emery in Australia, and I totally want to go to Sydney some year for New Year's, and I'm like, I'm going, and Emery's like, you just let me know when, you know. So like you make friends all over, and they can give you, like, when you know somebody there, it's better to get that experience than going in not knowing anybody. And it's like, okay, now, you know, it's like I got to set up all my tours and blah, blah, blah. Like they know what to do and where to go and what to see. So,
Or just having that place to stay. I know, you know, traveling, or if you're driving somewhere and you know, have a flat tire, there's a snowstorm or something like that. Even connecting at the airport from a different destination. I know I've met with Justin. He picked me up at the airport, and we've spent half a day exploring Denver just because I had some extra time. So those opportunities are the most memorable opportunities that you have because they're not structured.
Yeah, I did a 3-week tour around the country, and I never stayed at a hotel because I had JCs that I stayed with, and I just, it was an amazing experience and opportunity. And now I could do that around the world.
Sometimes there's 8 JCs staying at your house, and you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to a parade. So you figure it out.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Well,
I was just thinking about driving in the car with President Justin and you in an airport experience.
oh my gosh, yeah, that was a memorable one too. From St. Louis to West Virginia. Yeah, that was good. I'll never forget that opportunity.
That's right.
And I don't think I'll ever forget not being able to take a nap either in the car.
Exactly.
yeah.
Hey,
You laugh about it now.
we're alive today.
We are.
That's all that matters.
I kept you alive to go through pandemic.
You did.
You did. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, President Justin.
Well, thank you all for jumping.
Thank you.
I think this was a great session, and it shows just the true, the laughter and the good time, and you know, the genuine conversation. I think is really important, not just for us, but for our members as well. The next series is going to be on September 14th. We have MVP Miranda jumping on to talk about social media and how to stay engaged with members in a social world. So I think that'll be a great opportunity. We're still putting together these bi-weekly meetings or seminars throughout the end of the year. So if anybody has any suggestions, or if they want to be part of the membership series, please reach out and let me know. But outside of that, if any of you have anything else to add, you're welcome.
No, thank you so much for spending your birthday evening with us. Hey, look, for your birthday, you got to go to Colorado and Illinois and South Carolina, and then people from all over the United States saying happy birthday to you. That doesn't happen very often.
It's not, and I will never forget it. So thank you for making it a memorable evening. You all put a smile on my face. I love it.
Happy birthday again.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.